This is Amud Yomi, Gemara in Shabbos, Daf Lamid Zayin Amid Beis. We're holding in the bottom of Lamid Zayin Amid Aleph, 4 lines from the bottom. Mai Have Allah. And this has been a running discussion the past 2 Amudim since we began the Perek, trying to figure out what is Pshat in the Mishnah. So says the Gemara, Tachlis, Mai Have Ale Lamaisa. What is the maskana? Says the Gemara, Tashema, bring you a raya. Kira shesikua begefes ubeitzim. We have an oven that's fired up with gefes and eitzim. Soymchin la. You're allowed to put pots soymich to it, close to it. Vein mikaymin. However, you can only leave it. Mikayim is a lashon of shihiyah. You can only leave it. Elohim kain gruva ktuma. You could only leave it on top of such a fire unless it is gruva or ktuma. So what do we see? We see that smicha is allowed, even not gruva ktuma. That putting it nearby is allowed, but to actually leave it cooking, it has to be gruva or ktuma. Continues the brisa. Gechalim sha'amamais, coals that are, extinguishing, but there's still a little bit, glowing coals, but they're on their way out. Says the Brayso, you put a little bit of flax on it. So again, there's a little bit of a fire, but it's on the way out. That is like ketuma, for the simple reason that there's nothing to be done. There comes a point that's it, it's over. There's no more gufa ketuma, there's no more, yechata that could be done. Therefore, such a scenario would be mutter. So we're learning that semicha, putting close by, is mutter without gufa ketuma. Actual shehiyah, we need grufa or ketuma. Says the Gemara, what happens in the following scenario? Kitama, you did grufa ketuma, you put some ash on top of the coals, you put out the fire, and then v'hovara, but then it reflames up. Mashin aleh chamish kol tzarkon, then you're allowed to leave on it food which is fully cooked. V'tavshil shall be kol tzarkon, or foods that are fully cooked. So as we turn over to today's Amid Lamizayin Amid Beis, proves the Gemara Shema Mina. What do we see from Rav Aishia? Mitzdamek v'yafel mutter. So with this we introduce a new concept, a very important concept. There's something called cooked and not cooked. And even when something is cooked, it can continuously cook and get better and better. And the example we give, of course, is like a cholent, that the more it cooks, the better it gets. So even though it's fully cooked, it's not just edible, it's not just a third cooked, it's not just a half cooked, it's mamish fully cooked. Still, what do we see? Mitzamik v'yafalai, it literally means it shrivels, but it gets better. The halacha is, it's going to be mutter, even if it's not grufa, uketuma, even if there still are flames, even though it's not fully removed all the coals, that would still be mutter. Says the Gemara, no raya. Why no raya? Shiny acha, because this case, Rav Aishia, is different. Dikotma. Lemaisa, you did an act of ketima. Pshat is not that you did nothing. It's not that you just left your fire. No, you did your own. You did ketima. You did clearing away the coals. It reflamed. Okay, maybe that's the reason why we're being more liberal. That's why we're being makel. Yachi says to Gemara, my lememra, what's the chiddush? Explains the Gemara, hovara. Isrichale. The chiddush is that it reflamed up. Mao the tema kiva the hovara hadra lemilsa kamaisa. Maybe it's undone. You tried to take away the coals, but guess what? They're still on fire. You tried to put ash on it, but it's still on fire. Kamash malan, then no, your original action is still there, and that's the reason why in this case it's going to be mutter. Says the Gemara, Rav Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan teaches in the name of Rav Yochanan, 5 lines down. Lamed Zayin Amid Beis. Kitama v'hovara. If Again, you put ashes on your coals, then it reflamed up. You let it leave on it foods that are fully cooked. And even if the coals, even if the fire is made out of raisem, which is a type of wood which gets extremely hot, more than other coals, and it doesn't go out right away, so once it's once it's fully cooked, you're going to be allowed to leave it there. Shema mina, so proves the Gemara. Like we said before, the Gemara answers no. No, because it's case you lemais put ashes on top. It's trichale. Says the Gemara, Hainu hach. Shkoyach, it's the exact same case. Why are we teaching the same case twice? Answers the Gemara, Gacholim shal reisim isrichle. The chiddush is that even though it's this reisim wood which gets extremely hot, and therefore you would think that maybe it's more chomer, that's the chiddush, that it is not. Omar Rav Shisha, says the Gemara, Omar Rav Yochanan, Kiyush es kuv begavetzu veitzin. Says Rav Sheshes in the name of Rav Yochanan that you're allowed to do shehiyah even if it's not fully cooked. Okar. But if you remove the food, loy yachsir, you cannot do chazara until you put ashes on top, or you remove the coals, you put ashes on top. Says the Gemara, Kasavar. What do we see within the sheet of Rav Sheshet and Rav Yochanan? Kasavar Masnisan, that it did in our Mishnah, that we said in Beis Hillel, you're not allowed to leave a pot on the fire until you do Grufa Ktuma. Lahachzir Tanan, going all the way back to original Shaila. Shema Mina, that's referring to the din of Chazara. Avoleshais. What do we see from Rav Sheshes, the name of Rav Yochanan, that when it comes to doing shehiyah, when it comes to leaving food on the flame on Erev Shabbos, Mashin, you'd be allowed to leave it. Avol b'she'enoi grarav v'katum. Says the Gemara, Amar Rava, Tarvayu Taninu. What are you talking about? We already learned one din in the Mishnah. So what's Rav Sheshes coming to teach us? We already learned this din. Answers the Gemara, Lishois Tanina. The Chiddush is, as he's explaining this din about Shehiyah, that Avli She'eno Gar V'Katam, that he's allowing Shehiyah even in a scenario where it's not Garuf V'Katan. Says the Gemara, Amar Rava. So comes along Rava. Rava's not so happy. Says Rava, I don't understand. You just told me Rav Sheshes b'shem Rav Yochanan is teaching me Mashin Avi She'eno Garav Ve'eno Katam. Amar Rava, I think I skipped. 1 second. Apologies. Let's go back for a second. Kosavar Mas Nisan Lahachzir Tanan Avolushas Mashin Avi She'eno Garav Ve'Katam. Says the Gemara, Amar Rava Tarvayu Taninu. No, we learn both dinim. Ask the Gemara 1 second. Lisha is Tanina. You're right there. We learn about Shehiyah that says, Eino said it's a Basuch Tanur, Imcha Sheikha, V'lecharara al Gabi Gachalim, El Kdei Karmu Panel, until the bread has to char its top. Ha Karmu Panel, it's going to be mutter. Lahachzir. So that's where we have a Brisa Mishnah talking about the din of Shehiyah. When it comes to the din of Chazara, you just answered Amarav Tarvayu Tanino. Lahachzir Nami Tanina. Beis Hillel Nam Machzirin. Ad Kan Lo Kashari Beis Hillel El Ketuma. Gruva Ketuma. Sheni Gruva Ketuma Lai. So says the Gemara, what is Rav Sheshes' Chiddush? For Rav Sheshes Nami, you know what Rav Sheshes was coming to teach us? Yes! We learned both dinim. For Rav Sheshes Nami, Diyuka Demasnisa Kamashla, he's coming to point out this diuk. From there, we move on to another opinion. B'shem Rav Yochanan, after dealing with Rav Sheshes, we're smack in the middle. The first one line is Nami Diyuka. Amar Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda, Amar Rav Yochanan. Kirshes go begavu beitsin majla tavshel which called tzarkan v'cham shulchan called tzarkan v'afilu mitzamek v'yafaloi. So now this is the first time we're seeing that not only is the mutter once it's fully cooked, But even if it gets better, it's still mutter. Amar lei. Amar lei ahumi rabbanon l'Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda. Haravu Shmuel darmi tarbayu misav yavlo yaser. How can you tell me that if it gets better as it's cooking, it's mutter? But we learn b'shem Rav Shmuel that it's aser. So Amar lei, Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda answers, "Atu less ano yada." Do I not know? Dam Rav Yisrael, Rav Yehuda, Rav Shmuel misav yavlo yaser. What did I mean when I said misav yavlo is mutter? Rav Yochanan, meaning, what are you asking me for? I meant within the Shita Rav Yochanan. He's being Mekel. Amar le Rav Okumi Meishan Rav Ashi. Even though you're past like Rav Yochanan, that you're allowed to do Shehiyah. Aton l'Rav Shmuel. Aton l'Makaritu l'Rav Shmuel. Avidu k'Rav Shmuel. Anan navi k'Rav Yochanan. You are in Bavel, so you're close to Rav Shmuel, so you want to forever to Rav and Shmuel. However, we who are far from Rav Shmuel, we go with the Shita of Rav Yochanan. Amrlei Abayil Rav Yosef. So we have this machlekes, whether we're going with Rav Shmuel, whether we're going with Rav Yochanan. Comes in Abaya and he tells to Rav Yosef, Ma'u lishos. What is the din to do shehiyah on an oven that is not garuf v'katim? Amrlei, ha Rav Yehuda, mashilei Rav Yehuda lamaisa is mekel v'achol. Amrlei bar minad Rav Yehuda. Don't bring me a raya from Rav Yehuda. Why? Given the mesukenu, because in that case, Rav Yehuda, the person was in Zakanas Zavashis. And therefore, if you live in Shabbos, not even be allowed to do it on Shabbos. It's for a chayle. Leave alach mahu. What about us? We're not sick. What's the din? Amar le besura mashu. In surah they permitted. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak mari de'ovdu u'mashlei v'achol. Cause why? Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak is mekel. Amar le Rav Ashi kamina kamed Rav Huna. I was standing in front of Rav Yehuda v'shayin lei, and I did shehiyah on top of a kira that was not garuf v'katam. There's a proper flyer in there. Ki saw the harsina, some small fish, and guess what? V'achal, and I ate it. So v'lo yadano. So what's the shayla? I didn't know what was the reason. And it's mutter. Or since there's flour, mitztamik v'raloi, meaning maybe it's a raya to mitztamik v'yafloi, that maybe it's a raya to mitztamik v'yafloi, or maybe it's not mitztamik v'yafloi. So we don't know the particulars of the case. It's hard to bring a raya. So Amar Rav Nachman, 2 lines of the white lines, mitztamik v'yafloi aser, mitztamik v'raloi mutter. So wrapping it up, klala de milsa, called isbei mecha, if this flour, therefore mitztamik v'raloi. Lebar mitashel the lifta, the famous turnip, the lifta dish. Dafal gav this leimechades flour mitztamik v'yafloi. It's still considered mitztamik v'yafavani. Immediately, but that's only the turnip dish. This may be Isra, a delicacy that has meat. Even with me, we only said this din. You don't need it for gas. Because you don't want it to get shriveled up, because you want it to look bigger for the gas, which is another application of when it comes to archin. Lafta, and finally concludes the Gemara, Lafta daisa v'tamri. Those are all examples of mitzami v'raloi. We'll pick it up from the Shaila of Rav Chibar Abba, B'siyata Dishmaya.